Morning,
Hi,
Albert.
John.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Okay, let's start. Okay, let's start. Share screen. This one. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, and I think I have made a video based on this one. No, I have to talk it through. Okay, let's go. It is based on a press conference delivered on March 6th, 2020. So it is just almost the COVID situation in China is under control. So it is a review of what they have done. So I think this will be nice for us to review what the Chinese have actually done and how they look at what they have done and some of the lessons that we can learn from it. So it is based on their press release. This is the information office. So one of them is the host, and then the other three are the main speakers.
Well, but just to put this into context, when did the World Health Organization declare it a pandemic? Was it before this press conference or after it?
At that time, they are still calling it epidemics, not pandemic.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The first speaker is this Mr. Ding. He is a member of the Central Steering Group. The Central Steering Group means the central government's expert sent to Wuhan, and the Deputy Secretary General of the State Council. So analyst is a position in the State Council. He's a Deputy Secretary General. Is a pretty high ranking officer. So I'm taking out some of his speech and then I translate it into English. So in order to make sure that I know what he's talking about, so I keep the Chinese part there. So the first and the second paragraphs are the same, except one is the translation. And the translation is done with the help of Google. So I use Google's translator and then make slight modifications. So if anything wrong, then blame it on Google. So here, this particular sentence said, at that time, the WHO believes China has adopted the bravest, most flexible, and most active prevention and control measures in history. Now, I think the important thing I look at is the word flexible. Flexible is to me is one of the key points here. And obviously, it has stopped the spread of the epidemic throughout China. So China is able to limit the epidemic in Hubei, the province, and in particular Wuhan, the capital of the province. So it doesn't spread out to the rest of the country. Otherwise, China will have a big problem in hand. And the important thing is we don't worry about the beginning part. They say under the instruction of the Premier, etc. So these are political. But what is important for me is that it has to have a firm confidence, help each other, scientific prevention and control, and precise policy. So these are the so-called political instruction, and how they translate this political instruction into real actions in the ground, and that's what I'm interested more in. So you have to have a confidence that you can control the epidemic. It's based on help from all over the country, help each other, and then it's based on scientific methods, understanding what is the problem, and then provide the appropriate actions. And then precise policy means they keep on changing the policies as new information is available so that the policy is targeted to solve the problem. And because the translation, this one is a bit long, so I will put the English first, and then the next slide is the original Chinese. So China also sent its vice premier, Mrs. Shuan, to Hubei to lead this task. She clarified so-called 4 centralizations. That means she is concentrating all the efforts together in order to do classified management. That means I think the classified is a wrong translation. It's not classified as in secret. It means classify as in separate the patients group into different magnitudes. Some patients with mild symptoms, some are more serious, some severe, and some critical. Different groups of these different patients class is being managed differently. Another very interesting thing is that during these actions, the Chinese traditional medicine has played a very key role. And the other thing they say, move the border forward. That means when they want to fight this epidemic, they want to take actions as soon as possible, or even predict what will happen, and then do early interventions, prepare beforehand. Don't they one of the interesting idea of treating this epidemic is that China treated it as a war. In a war, you want to move the fighting boundary forward so that you can win the war. So they are using that language, move the border forward. Early intervention for mild patients. Even if the patients have a very mild symptoms, they want to intervene as early as possible. They implement multidisciplinary expert groups. In particular, is the Chinese and the Western medicines experts working together. Timely summarize the experience, perfecting the diagnosis, treatment standards, and by then, the closure of Wuhan is on 23rd of January, and this is on the 6th of March. So in between, we have February. So about 1 week before February, and then 1 week after February. So that is the time frame we're talking about. We are talking about a 6 weeks time frame here. Within this 6 week time frame, they have already implemented 7 different versions of diagnostic and treatment plan. 2 of them two additions used for the light and common management of the less severe patients, and the rest will be focused on the severe and the critical patients. So for them, there's already another 5 different plans already being revised. So they keep on changing the methodology to treat the patients throughout that very short period of time. You can imagine how confusing the nursing staff and the doctors will be when they have already very huge workload. They are working almost non-stop to the maximum ability they can, while updating all the experience and then changing the treatment plan, the management plan, and so forth. We can imagine how fast they are moving. So this is the Chinese version of what's translated here. They also need to do psychological interventions for patients and their families, provide help and care, meet the medical needs. And then there is one part. So these are people who's already sick. And then the other part is for stopping the virus to spread. So they also pay particular attention to the special populations, prisons, nursing homes, children's welfare homes, etc. They also strengthen community management and make sure that they create virus-free bubbles. So if your little village has no virus, then the villagers will make sure that there's no chance a virus will come in order to create as many virus-free bubbles as possible. So these are the things they have been doing. So according to him, there's 5 different characteristics. One is the command system is from top to bottom. They send a vice premier to there, and she's sending out orders, and that orders go from top to bottom all the way through. And the second is it must be transparent and open. Disclose various prevention and control information in a timely manner. This part I think is very important. There's a lot of accusations saying that the Chinese are not open, it's not transparent, the information is not correct. But when you want your citizens to cooperate, you need to feed them with the correct information in an open and transparent manner so that you can secure their cooperation. So this accusation is wrong because the fact that the Chinese people cooperate. Now, just like here, although we already know a lot of scientific evidence that the best method to control a virus is to social isolate, but we still see protests in the VN. That means our citizens is not convinced, but the Chinese citizens must be convinced in order to get them to cooperate, and that has to be done through open and transparent process. A lot of people argue, oh, Chinese is authoritarian, and therefore, just remember, it's a handful of officials is not able to control the whole population unless you get the cooperation of the population. So I do think that the Chinese has been very open and transparent, and they also accept social supervision, so that it can be the policy can be implemented to the lowest level. The third is using scientific method. The fourth is find out what is the main problem and then concentrate to solve the problem. And that include prevention and control, treatment, and guarantee of supplies. So these are the 4 things they really focus on: is prevent the further spreading of the virus, control the spread of the virus, provide treatment, and make sure that the material, the resources is available. And then the 5th one is mobilize everybody, mobilize the whole country, treat it like a war, and therefore respond to it like in a wartime. And that's exactly what the Chinese government had done. One of the reasons is that China has a very large population, 1.4 billion people. So if the virus spread outside of Wuhan too much, then that will be a very serious consequence. So far, the total case load of China, 90-something% is located within the Hubei province. Within the Hubei province, about 80% is located within Wuhan. So Wuhan is the epicenter. The rest of the country doesn't have such a high virus load, and that means this part of the country is able to send in their medical personnel into Wuhan. Another big problem is, of course, the resources available. Now, nobody is going to stop 5 million pieces of protective equipment for a long time, because these things you don't need it on a daily basis. Stocking that large amount of medical protective clothing is both costly as well as the material may be out of date, wastage, and so forth. So how can you suddenly increase the supply of this material? As he mentioned, at the beginning of the epidemic, Hubei, the province, can produce about 1,000 to 2,000 pieces of the personal protective equipments, but they needed over 5 million. That means there's no way a few thousand can help, so they have to gear up, and then need to be supported from the rest of the country in order to pour in all the resources. So by that time, already 5 million pieces of the protective clothing have been used. 9 million of the N95 masks has been used. So it is impossible for one place to support all these all the demand in all these equipments. Another issue is that at the peak of the epidemic, every day there's more than 3,000 patients coming in. So you need places to hold these 3,000 patients. In Wuhan, there are 2 infectious disease hospitals. Together, they have no more than 1,000 beds. But if you have 3,000 patients coming in every day, you are running out of beds very, very quickly. And there's no city in the world which will have a few thousand beds waiting there for patients. No, that won't happen. And therefore, it is important to quickly increase the number of beds available. So they do that by, first of all, converting 86 other hospitals into infectious disease hospitals. And then they built new hospitals. What I translated as square cabin hospitals, or those temporary hospitals in big venues, areas for the mild patients. And then eventually, by that time, within 6 weeks, they have increased the number of beds in Wuhan to 60,000. So you can imagine transforming a hospital which has about 1,000 beds. It's a large hospital already. And then you need 60 such large hospitals built within a couple of weeks. So that you can imagine the amount of the work behind it. So it means the number of beds equivalent to 60, they call it tertiary hospitals, meaning large hospitals, have been completed within 1 month. So without a concentrated effort, both from the top leadership to the local people, that's an impossible task. The way to do it is they treat it like a war. And in a war, when the enemy is bombing your city, you hide up in the underground shelters. If you treat these epidemics like a war, then it is reasonable to ask the people to shelter at their home. Don't go out. Don't spread the virus. And that is exactly why the Chinese government called this as a war, and then mobilize people to stay at home. And staying at home, of course, is inconvenient to them. It's discomfort. But failure to do so will mean casualties. Letting everybody hide in the bunker and stay in isolation temporarily is to cut off the transmission of disease. Okay, second part is presentation is from this guy. He is from the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. So he is the supply guy. He is the one who manage all the material supply. So he will be able to tell us what is actually being supplied to Wuhan and how that can be done. So to him, ensuring the material needs of Hubei is his top priority. So first is the medical protective equipment. Is from initial severe shortage into sufficient inventory. The second is all the medicines has to be stocked. So that for that one, they changed the hospitals procurement from individual hospital buying the medicine they need. It is changed into centrally supplied and then stocked by government standard configuration. And then the third is all the treatment equipments have to be supplied. So here's what have been done. Protective clothing. The daily output was at around 20,000 nationwide, and that has increased to 500,000 pieces per day. 20,000 pieces per day to 500 pieces per day for the protective equipment. For N95 mask, increased from 200,000 to 1.6 million. For ordinary masks, increased to about 100 million per day. That capacity meaning that it has been run up by a factor of about 25 times. It's not 25%, 25 times. And at the same time, they also had supplied 65,000 medical treatment equipments to Wuhan, to the Hubei province. And among them, there are 22,000 sets of respiratory equipments. 67 of them are the more expensive advanced membrane oxygenators. And then 50,000 sets of the heart electrical monitor, ECG monitors, etc. And they even provided almost 700 negative pressure ambulances within that short amount of time. That means the whole Chinese industrial muscles suddenly is converted into manufacturing all these medical equipments almost like overnight. Okay, lastly is this lady. She is from the Chinese Medicine Bureau, so she will be explaining the work of how the Chinese medicines actually help. At that time, in March 2020, there are already a few case studies. These case studies involve from 56 to about 200 patients in each case studies. And these case studies has been used for the rest of the management. And then by now, I'm still waiting for a summary of the whole treatment of the patients in China using Chinese medicine. In this particular case, Chinese medicine plays a very important role. The plan here is that they will use both the Chinese medicine and the Western medicine together. And the Chinese medicine has played a very important role. Chinese medicine has been used throughout history in treating and preventing plagues. Obviously, for a country like China with that long history, there's a lot of plagues in between, and hence Chinese medicine has built up quite a bit of experience in that. And when this new virus come along, in the Western domain, the Western medicine domain, there's no treatment and no virus, no vaccines. So the only way they can do is go to the Chinese experience drawers, as I would say, and then find relevant formulas and then implement that. That had also been used in the past, like in SARS and influenza A, etc. So Chinese is now pulling up their old experience. And then because they are dealing with a very large amount of patients, and if all the patients are treated with Western techniques, it will be too expensive. So most patients are treated with Chinese medicine rather than Western medicine. The bulk of them, 50,000 of them, were discharged at that time, and most of them use Chinese medicine as the treatment. Only those who are very severe, critical, will use a combination of Chinese and Western medicine. The as I said, a lot of them has only been treated only using traditional Chinese medicine. Now, in the square cabin hospitals where they have large numbers of patients with almost no to mild symptoms, they were given Chinese medicine in bulk. So everybody in the morning they will drink a Chinese medicine, and I think depending on the severity of their symptoms, some will have taken the Chinese medicine twice a day, some will take it 3 times a day, and these are made in large, like our hot water system. They will have it cooked and then put on the large water tank, and then people just collect it for themselves and then they drink it. Chinese medicines has another, they are herbal medicines, and they are also relatively inexpensive. So most patients are actually treated by Chinese medicine alone. Now she have quoted a number of cases. I haven't found the report in peer-reviewed journals, so I'm not including it here. I do have found one peer-reviewed articles about using Chinese medicine for COVID-19, but I'm not a medical person, so I can't really understand everything. But they are beginning to see more and more articles being written about how Chinese medicine actually help. The Chinese medicine and the Western medicines has a very different philosophy and treatment methods. Basically, the Chinese medicine is more concentrating on prevention, more concentrate on building up one's the body's own resistance and repair abilities, and then so-called overall balance. So, in order to treat this, it seems that it in the prevention type, especially for the mild patients, it is very effective. So for the light and less severe patients, they will use Chinese medicine at the earliest time possible. For the severe and critical patients, then they will have a combination of Chinese medicine and the Western medicine. The Western medicine usually is the life support system, like breathing machines, like oxygenator for their blood and so forth. Whereas the Chinese medicine is really the drug that is being used. So they use a combination of this one. Especially for so long, there's no particular drug that is suitable. During the recovery period, then the Chinese medicines, the acupuncture, the massage, etc. is being used to help the patients to recover a little bit earlier. It has been found that using Chinese medicine, the number of cases changing from mild to severe or critical is reduced by a 10 or 20%. For treatment time, reduced by about 3 to 4 days out of about a 2-week cycle. So there is a significant amount of value there. But again, these are just reported. I see no accurate data of it. So until I see the accurate data, I'm not going to report it. But when I see one, then I will later on may do another sessions reporting on what they have actually found out scientifically. So this is my presentation, and then we'll have a discussion. So we'll stop share here, and then we can have discussion. Okay, anyone want to start first? Yeah.
No, I was just clearing my throat. Oh, sorry.
That's right. Anyone?
Albert, did they find out the traditional medicine did that have they used both at the one time, but have they found with a wider experience that is more productive than Western medicine at all in any way?
Yes, they find it is more productive. Yeah, and cost-wise especially, in terms of cost, Chinese medicine is so much cheaper. I think one of the reasons why Western medicine is very expensive is most of the medicine are being locked up by patents.
Of course.
And therefore it's very expensive to the Chinese government at least. Whereas for the Chinese medicine, it's herbal, and it has been with China for a long time. And there's a lot of Chinese medicine drugstore around the country who have large collection of those herbal medicine, because they are quite simple herbal medicine. It's not very complicated.
It's totally herbal, is it?
It's totally herbal, and most of this herbal medicine today they have already extracted the essence, so that you don't need to boil the herbal medicine from the stock. You can just take it. Let me show you one of them. I think I have talked about this some time ago.
Oh, hang on, I'll just put it on your bigger screen.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks, Albert.
Yeah, something like that. It is crystal, so it is extracts. So they say for this one, I have a whole collection of this sent by my brother-in-law. He is a Chinese medicine practitioner, so he can prescribe medicine. So this medicine is not available in China, Hong Kong without prescription. But many of them need prescription, but this one is not. So they are very safe. If I really correctly, it has... No, it doesn't specify what is inside here. So it doesn't specify the extract. Usually, this guy will tell you from which kind of plant it has been extracted.
Now, with the recovery time over there in Wuhan, etc., I gathered it's still the same as what happens out here, that it's using the two medicines, it still takes that same amount of time to fully recover.
It takes about 3 to 4 days shorter time to fully recover with Chinese medicine.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
Yeah. 3 to 4 days out of about 12 days. 12 to 14 days. Usually 2 weeks.
Albert, would it be fair to say that the use of Chinese medicine is the initial means of treatment, and that if that's unsuccessful, they then move on to Western medicine?
Yeah. You can treat it that way. Now, some patients will Now, at the very beginning, many patients come into the hospital very sick because they originally they don't know it is the COVID-19 virus. Okay. They think it is a cold. So for most cold, no people doesn't really go to the hospital. We just wait for it home and wait for it to become better. But once it becomes very serious, you go to hospital. Is sometimes you are very serious critical situations. But as soon as they identify that as a new virus, then the early intervention comes in. Of course, they have to ramp up the testing. So I think by about early mid January, they already have some form of testing for the virus. Once they have the testing of virus, then they ask all people with any symptoms to get tested. When they tested positive, then they are being isolated. So in the later stages, there will be a lot of mild or people with no symptoms. If you have a close contact with a patient, then you will be tested as well. So at the very beginning, they have a lot of very serious case. Then quickly, a lot of mild case come in, where the square cabin hospital becomes available.
Right. Is there no form of manufacture of Western-based treatments, medicines carried out in China, or is it all based on purchasing from overseas?
There are a lot of manufacturing in China as well, because China is the main supplier of ingredients for medicine in the Western medicine.
Right.
Even India discovered that during this COVID-19 is that while they have a very large pharmaceutical manufacturing capability, but the raw ingredients, a lot of them come from China. About 80% of them come from China, and the Indian pharmaceutical industry also supply the medicines for the branded medicine as well, because they find it cheaper to be manufactured in India.
Right.
And coming back to this thing, it is extracted using Western medicine techniques. They are herbal based, but they are extracted using scientific method, so that they're easy to prepare. You just tear it up, mix it in warm water, drink it. That's it. So one packet is one dosage, and this is for 1 day. One in the morning, one in the evening. So if you are feeling a little bit fever, a little bit cough, symptom like that, take one of this package, and then continuously for a week. If symptoms still persist, you better go to see a doctor. Otherwise, you will be fine. And because we have to take about a week of this, and then when you take it, your family members also need to take it, because they don't want the virus to spread. And therefore, I have a supply of about 3 months here. And I don't see there's a expiration date as well, so I suppose they are stable.
Do you take any of either this one or different ones regularly as a maintenance dose?
Yeah, this can be used as a maintenance. And the reason my brother-in-law sent it to us is that it is as a prevention. So when we have any symptoms or feeling unwell, then we can start using it. So it is also used as a preventive medicine as well.
Thank you, Albert.
You're welcome. Any other question? No? Okay, I have asked my friend to give us a talk on South China Sea about 1 month later.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So he is I think one of the first person to get a PhD in law. And
where's he based, Albert?
Sydney.
Sydney, yep.
Yeah. Of course, he is a Chinese and he worked very closely with the Chinese community.
Mm.
And we discovered that he and I were from the same secondary school.
Oh, yes.
But obviously, he studied the arts stream. I studied the science stream, so we are not classmates, but we are schoolmates.
Mm. And is he going to talk on the legal situation there, I presume, or is something a different angle of it?
Legal, well, mainly from legal point of view.
That will be good, Albert.
Yeah. So I will get him. Actually, I think a lot of you know that I am a KOL on YouTube.
What? Sorry, we're not with you.
Which Albert?
KOL, Key Opinion Leader.
Oh, are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
In
And
where?
so we have 2 live sessions every week together. Tomorrow at 2 our time, and then on Thursday also 2 at our time. I have 2 live sessions on my YouTube channel with him. So one is tomorrow we were talking about politics, and on Thursday we'll talk about Hong Kong education.
And where's this flow to? Who's it done on whose behalf is it done?
For tomorrow is on my behalf.
Yeah.
It's my talk show. On Thursday is somebody another KOL in Hong Kong. We are his guests. And tomorrow they are my guests. Put it that way.
Oh, okay.
And I can update you. At the moment, I have 102,000 subscribers.
Have you? That's quite a lot.
That's amazing.
I'm not growing fast enough. I should work a little bit harder to grow it up a little bit more. But that's only that much I can do anyway. So my
Word
English
of
channel
mouth will
says
spread.
just 1,200 subscribers in my English channel.
And yet you're happy to come for a handful at U3A. Good
Doesn't
on you.
matter. It's my joy to talk with you guys. It is it's socializing. It's another part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We feel honoured with what you're doing for us, Albert.
You're welcome. And then next year when we start, we will probably also arrange a coffee session as well.
Yes, we'll be in that.
Well, once we're able to, yes.
Yeah.
And
I don't think this year U3 is going on. No. I don't think so. Next year will be the best guest.
How do you envisage next year that we'll do? Our group isn't big. We'll be able to do a face-to-face
I
in
hope
a room
so.
without any difficulty.
I hope so.
Mm.
If we are obedience to the government's social distancing rules, so hopefully by Christmas we should be over.
Mm.
And
numbers are certainly coming down. So
well, at the moment sitting at 30 something. Yeah.
At long last.
There was no death yesterday, so that was a lovely feather in our cap, or the community's cap.
Yeah.
That's sort of a long time coming, that sort of figure.
Yeah. And then we need that to go down to 0 for 2 weeks. And
What's
then
the hard part?
Summer's,
That ain't going to happen easy, I don't think.
no,
summer is coming. Summer's our friend.
Yes, it will help, Valerie.
no, it doesn't. Look at Trump. Originally, he said, "Oh, it will be gone in April when the heats come." It
No,
didn't.
but it means we can eat outside.
Yeah, but when Hong Kong just did a general testing, so their positive rate is 0.00018%. Our rate is still 0.9, so we still have quite a bit of virus among us.
Yes, we do.
So even when we release our social distancing, we still have to be a little bit careful because there are still viruses around us.
And still people coming back from overseas who will bring it.
Yeah, and then they need to be tested completely.
But they refuse to be tested.
In China, they just announced a lockdown starting from tomorrow for one city because there were three people entering the city illegally from outside of China and tested positive. And then they locked down the whole city and do a complete test for every person in the city. It's quite different. In China, they just treat it like a war. When there is an enemy come in, lock down, kill the enemy before you are free to go.
Yeah. I think the problem here will be the non-believers, that they won't, in their own space, practice the social distancing and all the good things one should do, and that will prolong it in some fashion, I would think.
Yeah.
The number of people who are not wearing masks is growing. Now, yesterday, I took some rubbish out. I didn't put my mask on because I didn't leave my own property. But looking at the road, I saw 3 people passing by, and 2 of those 3 were not wearing masks, which is frightening.
Yeah.
They weren't running.
No.
They will run if someone approaches.
Well,
I must admit I've gone out a couple of times and unintentionally not put the mask on. I've been walking along and I think, oh, I feel naked.
yeah.
So I've done an about turn and gone home.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks. You'll have to send a new invitation to us.
No, I think we can still use the same invitation.
Just use the same one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's better that way.
All right. Well, I'll keep them.
Yeah.
I might have deleted it. I'll have to get Betty to send it again.
Or you can send me an email, then I will send it to you.
Okay.
Albert,
do you want people to contact you if they're going to attend your sessions?
Yeah,
I know some.
if you would like to
Anyone
join
can-
the session anytime, anybody welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just spread the invitation and then
Okay.
okay.
Keep well, Albert.
Now,
Thank
what
you.
date are we talking,
Albert.
Thank you.
Albert, what date are we talking about?
First week of October.
Right, yes, okay.
6th or 6th.
Okay.
3 weeks.
All right. Thank you, Albert.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you,
Enjoy the
everybody.
break.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you.